Yeah, welcome in. Welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast. Got a pretty interesting show for you today. In a way, it's kind of sad, but in a way, maybe not. So let's get right to it. Unfortunately, the late great Kobe Bryant died 4 years ago yesterday. Today's 27. 4 years ago yesterday, January 26, 2020. And Kobe Bryant was known as one of the greatest players of all time, one of the greatest, most ruthless, most aggressive scorers the game of basketball has ever seen. We all know that he modeled his game after his idol, Michael Jordan, to the point that he basically copied and learned and memorized all of his moves. And then to the point that he, maybe even in the eyes of some, took it to the next level. One of the greatest tough shot makers in league history. And even when he had the opportunity as a young player in the league to go up against Michael Jordan, who was still on top of the mountain, he was one of the very, very few that did so with absolutely no fear and attacked Michael Jordan directly. Um, Even when he got it handed to him as a young player, so be it. But he went at Michael Jordan with no fear, no compunction, and little to no respect on the court. No respect in that, not that he was, cursing at him or being derisive or anything like that, but no respect in that he was going right at him. Same way Michael Jordan went at everyone else, Kobe went at him. Anyway, Kobe, I mean, he was absolutely incredible. And one of the most incredible feats of Kobe as an incredible scorer is the fact that he is the holder of the record for the second highest scoring game in NBA history. We know that Wilt Chamberlain back in the 1962 season, I believe, had a 100-point game, which has never been surpassed. And the crazy part about that, don't get me wrong, pace is a huge part of it. That was one of the fastest eras on record. But there were no threes back then, and Wilt had 100 points in a single game. And for the longest time, we thought that would never be broken, but records, I guess, are made to be broken, and maybe one day that's going to happen. And I'll get into that in a little bit. But anyway, back to Kobe. He had an 81-point game on January 22nd, 2006, against the Toronto Raptors, and it's kind of crazy that this past week was the anniversary both of Kobe's death and Kobe's legendary 81-point game. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because if you watch the channel, you're not new to the channel. You've heard me talk time and time again about the state of the NBA in terms of its total lack of defense, the fact that the rules have been changed, and the way the game is played facilitates so much more scoring. You have so many more three-point shots being taken and made. You have a much faster pace than most other eras in history. You have an ability for stars to get to the line even more so because everything is a foul, and you have defense basically legislated out of the game of basketball. So it's like you look at back in the 90s, you had a lot of games that were 90 to 85 or something like that, and that's a three-quarter game, or maybe sometimes even a first half game in the modern NBA. And so I'm bringing this up because, again, back to Kobe, he scored the 81 points on January 22nd, 2006. He unfortunately died early, along with six others on that helicopter, January 2020. And so this past week was a lot of remembrance of the late, great Kobe Bryant. But the wild thing about it is, during this past week, something crazy happened. And Kobe Bryant was a guy who, again, was one of the most ruthless and aggressive scorers the game has ever seen. But in this past week, you had five players in the NBA score over 60 points in a game. And I don't believe that's ever happened before. And so the reason I'm bringing this up, last night, January 26th, Luka Doncic scored 73 points in his team's win over the Hawks. Earlier this week, Joel Embiid scored 70 points to set the Philadelphia 76ers all-time record. What is it? Last night, Devin Booker scored 62 points. Carl Anthony Towns earlier in the week scored 62 points. So you look at this thing, I guess it's not five players scoring over 60. It was four players scoring over 60. But again, I don't know that we've ever seen that happen in 1 week in the NBA before. And it's absolutely wild. And so when you look at the thumbnail for this video, one of the things that it says is the Mamba is smiling down from above. And we know that the Mamba loved an offensive arsenal in a player. He loved a player that would go at the opposition and attack and attack and attack and beat them into mercy and submission in attempting to win the game. We know that he loved to see players that mastered their offensive skill set. And so uh I'm looking at this and I'm like, it's really odd that the week that was both the anniversary of Kobe's death and his 81-point masterpiece, his virtuoso performance, you saw all these guys really go off. And so we're gonna, we start with Luka Doncic, and it's funny because one of the things that I have talked about on this channel before, and one of the things that I say ad nauseum when I debate people about LeBron and Jordan and the past NBA versus the modern NBA, I say it all the time. Defense been legislated out. These players, while they are very skilled, yes, we can't say that this is the best era in the history of the NBA. It may be more fan friendly, it may be more pleasing aesthetically. We may see many more threes and we may see more scoring. That doesn't make it better. So we see all this going on, and a while back I did a video, and you can actually check the channel. I think it's called "The NBA Should Be Ashamed," and it was talking about how the European guys, Giannis, Luka, Jokic, all those guys came over here, and while they're very skilled players, well, Jokic and Luka, and Giannis obviously developed himself into the player that he is. They all came over here to the NBA, and they say that it's easier to score here than it is in Europe. And so we say the modern NBA, it is easier to score. There's no question about it. But you have people still arguing that this NBA is the best NBA that there ever was, and the players are the best that they've ever been. And so how can anybody argue that when we see all these ridiculous point totals being put up? Now, again, it's not me knocking guys putting up points. It's not me knocking the modern game. It's me being objective because I've had the opportunity to watch over 4 decades of NBA basketball. I started watching NBA basketball in the in the mid to late 1980s. Now, did I know what I was watching as well as I do now at that time? No, but I do remember it, and obviously I've gone back and watched it. Like I say it all the time to people. I've been a Celtics fan since Larry Bird was waving the towel in the old Boston Garden in 1986. So I know what the NBA was, what it has been, and what it's become. And that's not, again, that's not to knock the modern NBA or take shots at it, but the fact is, we have, I want to say it was maybe around 2004, 2005, former vice president of operations for the NBA, Stu Jackson. He's on the record saying that they changed the rules to increase freedom of movement and to make it easier for offensive perimeter players. You changed the rules to make it easier for these guys to get off. Again, nothing wrong with that. But if you change the rules to say that, how can anybody in their right mind sit here and tell me that the players today are more skilled or that the game is better when it literally was adjusted to make it easier for things to happen? I talk about Joel Embiid. I think I've done a few shows on Joel Embiid. Y'all know I'm a big Embiid fan. I love his skill set. I love the fact that he admires Olajuwon to the point that, again, you watch his footwork and you watch the things he can do in the post. You watch his mid-range game. You can see that he took a lot from Dream and that he admired him. And he even said, again, that when he was young in Africa, someone gave him a videotape of Olajuwon, and he would watch the tape over and over and over, and then he would go and he would practice the moves and try to do the moves. And we see it in the way that he plays. And that's why I did a show a while back. I think it's called like Embiid is Dream 2.0. Now, I'm not saying that Embiid is better than Olajuwon. He's absolutely not. But the fact is, I've talked about it in this NBA. There's nobody when Embiid is doing what he's supposed to be doing who should be able to guard him. And that is why he's averaging almost 35 points a game and absolutely dominating today. Now, it's not because his skill set is not great. Like I said, he has tremendous footwork. He has great low post moves. He has an outstanding mid range game. He can step out and shoot the three. He is one of the best shooters, if not the best free throw shooter ever for a big man. I think last year he shot like 89% from the free throw line. I think that's down a little bit this year, 86, 87. But the point is, he has a complete offensive arsenal, a complete offensive scoring package as a center. And when you have that, and you're also bigger and stronger than everyone, and you're in an NBA where most of the quote unquote centers are, slim guys who want to step out and shoot threes instead of banging on the block, well, it's going to be easy for you to get busy and do your work. Same thing with Jokic. You look at Karl Anthony Towns. He's a big time scorer. He's not a great low post guy, but he's a big time scorer because he can shoot the three. and he likes to hang out there and shoot the three, which is why it kind of works to some extent with Gobert, because Gobert is a more traditional low block guy, or maybe a little bit of high post, but mostly a low block guy, defensively and offensively. And that allows Karl Anthony Towns, who clearly does not like a lot of contact and does not like to bang, that allows him to hang out and shoot threes. So he's a talented and skilled offensive player. But again, modern NBA, you're going to get away with that stuff. Devin Booker, out of these four, is probably the closest guy in terms of what it would take to be successful in the old NBA. And when I say old NBA, I mean 80s, 90s, early 2000s. His mid-range game is incredible. He can really do it in the mid-range. He's very efficient. I think he's averaging like 28 points a game this year, 7.5 assists. So he's really, really having a great season. But his scoring package is also awesome. He can handle the ball. He can go to the rim. And again, it's a lot easier to go to the rim today because there's so few true shot blockers in the league. But he can go to the rim. He can handle the ball. His mid-range game is crazy. And he's got a lot of Kobe type skills as well. Obviously, not anywhere near Kobe, but you can tell that he models a lot of the stuff that he does in the mid-range after Kobe as well. And he can step out and shoot the three. I think he shoots like 38% from three. So he is another one with a tremendous all-around scoring package. And then finally, Luka Doncic. Now, Luka Doncic has a hell of a game, and he's not an elite three-point shooter, which is odd. A lot of the European guys are really, really good three-point shooters, always have been, but that's fine. I, for the life of me, cannot figure out how Luka is able to do what he's able to do, even in this league where defense is, like I always say, has been legislated out. You can't put your hands on anybody. You can't really get physical. But I watch Luka and I'm like, this guy has a way of always getting to his spot. You cannot rush him offensively. He's got very solid footwork, which all this to me just says his fundamentals are crazy, because he's not super athletic. He's not super explosive. He's not super quick. He's not super fast, but he's just doing it. He's getting there. He's averaging 29 or 30 points a game. And he's having no problem doing it. Nobody, like I said, can stop him from getting to his spots. That is scary. That is absolutely scary. And so you're looking at it and you're saying, man, how is Luka able to do this? Oh, I'm sorry, not 30 a game. He's second in the league in scoring, averaging 34 and a half, 8.6 rebounds, 9.2 assists per game on 49% from the floor. So Luka is out here killing. And the scary, he's been killing since he walked into the league. Right. And again, this is a guy that the physical tools are not elite. So you wonder, how is he able to do this? I think he's already now at the third highest career scoring average. He's averaging 28 points a game, 28.3 to be exact. How is Luka doing it? He's it doesn't make any sense to me, because he's shooting 34.4%. That's under league average from three. He's shooting 74% from the line, which again is odd for a European player. Those guys are generally really good free throw shooters. And 49% from the floor. So, I'm sorry, this season he's shooting 38%. So he has improved his three-point shooting. He's 34% for his career. I'm looking at the wrong numbers there. And 77% from the stripe. So all his numbers across the board have gone up this season. He's more efficient. But again, he's not super explosive. He's not super quick, but no one can stop him from getting to his spot. Now, is that testament to his skill? Is that testament to the lack of great defenders in the modern NBA? It's probably some of both, but Luka is doing it. He's going crazy. Anyway, so I started this out by saying Kobe Bryant is smiling down from heaven, because I'm sure that he loves to see outstanding offensive production. He would love to see guys going off, guys mastering their craft offensively. But I think we also got to think about this and say, remember, Kobe was 9 times all defensive first team. So he's probably looking at guys and he's disgusted with the lack of defense on the other side. Like, how are we letting dudes just do whatever they want? Like, where's the pride? Where's the effort? It doesn't even make sense. So, yeah, I'm looking at this thing and I'm just I'm totally blown away. But the problem is, because of what we're seeing, and don't get me wrong, it was a week of incredible performances in the NBA, and I'm sure the casual fan loves to see that, loves to see guys putting up big points and having these incredible explosive scoring nights. But I don't think that it speaks well of the state of the game currently. But it is what it is. Not too much I can do about it. And at the end of the day, we can't turn the clock back. I heard Kevin Garnett talking to Paul Pierce, and I think he also said it to Shaq. And one of the things he said was, "We got to stop thinking about basketball the way it was and just accept it the way it is." And that's something that, in fairness, it's true, and it's something that I'm working on in myself and trying to get better at. But when you got people who don't have the reference points and didn't really see the past eras and don't understand what it was and how difficult it was to be an elite scorer back then, and now because guys are putting up a ton of 3-pointers and they want to tell me, hey, Bruce, well, today's players are so much better and the league is so much more skilled than ever before. That's the stuff that irritates me and makes me get in front of the mic and do shows like this. But yeah, so yeah, I guess what I want to know from you is, do you believe, if you're old enough to remember or you really saw or know basketball, do you believe that today's players are more skilled than they've ever been? Do you believe that this is the best ever era of NBA basketball? And yeah, leave your comments in the comment section. Can't wait to hear them. And if you haven't already and you're here on YouTube, please go ahead, click that subscribe, that like, and that notification bell. Really need that. Almost there. And we're going to get those live call-in shows going when we hit the mark, okay? Because I'm definitely looking forward to having you guys call in and talk to you and interact with you about that. All right. So make sure you subscribe. If you want the audio only version, open up your audio podcast platform, subscribe there, give us that like and that 5-star review, and make sure you share the pod. We're just going to keep growing and keep growing and keep doing our thing. And it's just going to get better and better for 2024. So I look forward to hearing from you soon. And um, I'll be back with you next episode. And yeah, I'm out. Peace.